Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. I am your host, Rabbi David Spinrad. Welcome back. This is episode number 18, the Kings of Kezar. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey so far. If you like the episode, give me a like, leave a comment, give me some feedback. Best of all, tell somebody. We're going to start today with a mail day. Mail days are sweet, right? There's big mail days. There's small mail days. There's multiple mail days. There's mail days on a card you've wanted for a long time and waited, and you're thinking, oh, when is that card going to come? All the way down to the mail days of like, why did I buy this card? Thankfully, those are fewer and fewer and fewer. And most of them were somewhere in between. Things that tickle you. I think the measure of a mail day is basically how long you have that card out before you put it away. So let me show you the card. This is not the mail day, but this is the card that inspires the mail day. 1958. Rival fence busters Willie Mays and Duke Snider. Willie's standing on Duke's right. Duke is on his left, so to our left, and Duke is to our right. Willie's kind of like holding up Snyder's bicep. Snyder's smiling. This is taken while they're still members of the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers. So the unis are airbrushed. NY is covered up, of course, with the SF. And Brooklyn did a terrible job if you look close. It kind of looks like the LA. But no matter the reason, I wanted to start with this example of rival fence busters 1958 tops this is the very first vintage card I ever bought. This, along with a 1958 Stan Musial All-Star, which is like triple printed, I think, because they were so happy to have him back under the Topps banner, and a 1960 Willie Mays card 200. Those are the three first cards I ever purchased at a Record King. The Record King was just kind of this cool record store, but they also had kind of some collectibles, and behind the glass at the front counter, they had some vintage baseball cards. And I probably got this card for, I don't know, $3-4. I know that the Mays, 60 Mays cost me $8.50. When did I buy it? I don't know. Right around the All-Star game, probably sometime in 83, 84, 85. And I've had it forever, and even 30 years without collecting. I always had a special place in my heart. The level horizontal card, the yellow, Willie Mays. And so in my Willie Mays run, I wanted to upgrade it. And upgrade it I did. Just got this in last week. Nice. A nicer copy of that 58 rival fence busters. The yellow is better. It's cool to see the contrast. Really nicely centered. Pretty good image. It's like a little teeny bit of snow. Not the end of the world. I didn't quite see it on the pictures online. But certainly no regrets. Not a card centered like that. I think the reason mainly that it got the 5 is actually there's a big old print line or roller mark or something running down the line on the back of the card, a vertical line. But I'm super happy with this. Continuing my Willie Mays run. All right. We'll have another mail day for you coming up a little bit later on in this episode. Of course, the All-Star Game in 1984 is played at Candlestick Park, the home of the San Francisco Giants from 1960 through 1999. In 1971, following an expansion and enclosing of the stadium, the Niners joined the Giants as tenants at Candlestick Park, 1971, and they would play there through the 2013 season, long after the Giants had moved to Pac Bell. But from 49ers became co-tenants at Candlestick for all those years. And if you think about 1984 and you are a Bay Area sports fan, that is a magical season for the Niners. We're going to come back to that in a later episode. That is the year they go 15-1, losing only to the Pittsburgh Steelers, steamrolling the Miami Dolphins 38-16 at Stanford Stadium. Niners that year, number one offense, number one defense. What a team. Before the Niners played at Candlestick Park from 1946 through 1970, they played at Kezar Stadium. Kezar Stadium was built in 1920. Bleachers all around could hold 50,000 people. What always blows me away the most is that Kezar Stadium is like right in the middle of the city. It is basically on the southeast corner of Golden Gate Park, right off of Stanton Street. The Haight's on one side, right? Haight-Ashbury there. You've got the inner Richmond. You're on Mount Parnassus. You know what? Rather than me doing all that jibber jabbering, let me show you a picture, an aerial picture. And we're going to go full screen layout so you can see it. There is Kezar Stadium, home to the 49ers from 46 to 99. No, 46 through 70. The building's right there, up higher above. That's Mount Parnassus, the green up in left-hand corner. It's UCSF Medical Complex. Above it, in front of it, is the inner Richmond. Bottom right, that's Golden Gate Park, this amazing bowl of a stadium. Remember, my dad used to go to all the games, and he was a kid, and one of the things they would say that there was no parking. So someone would drive their car the night before, they would park it, and there'd be a car waiting, and they'd take them back, and the next day they'd take the bus. Such a strange thing, right in the middle of Golden Gate Park, right in the middle of the city. Before the Niners came, it used to host events like track and field and auto racing and motorcycle racing and boxing, and of course college football. It hosted St. Mary's, which is kind of weird. They played out in Moraga, Santa Clara. But you got to remember, back then, the 30s, the 40s, college football was king. Pro football, not even close. The Niners don't start until 1946. The old All-America Football Conference. They're there for the length of the league, 46 to 49. After the 1949 season, the Baltimore Colts, the San Francisco 49ers, and of course, the crown jewel of the AAFC, the Cleveland Browns, are absorbed into the NFL. Some of the other teams sort of do a merger. The Los Angeles Dons and join with the Los Angeles Rams, for example. And then the NFL has hegemony for the 1950s until the AFL upstart eventually forges a merger a little later. Last little tidbit about Kezar Stadium. Did you know that the bad guy, Scorpio, in Dirty Harry, you're Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, the bad guy in the first movie named Scorpio, kind of a sort of a takeoff on the Zodiac Killer, I reckon. The bad guy Scorpio in Dirty Harry was a caretaker. His character was a caretaker at Kezar Stadium, and he lived under the stadium in the very bowels of the great arena. Anyway, you came to talk 84 All-Star Game. You came to talk 1980s. I'm talking about a 1970 film with Clint Eastwood. I'm talking about the old AAFC, the All-America Football Conference. You didn't come for that. But today we take a slight little detour because I have something to celebrate, and I really wanted to celebrate it with you. So we're talking Kezar because those 49er denizens are represented beautifully on a complete raw run of San Francisco 49ers cards from 1950 through 1959 that I complete today. Did a raw run of 49ers from 1950 through 1959. 50 is the first year Bowman does football. There's a leaf set and a couple smaller things. 35 is National Chickle. There's a couple in the 33 Sporting King set, but really Bowman 1950, iconic. Is it gorgeous? I'll leave it to you to decide. So Bowman has football cards 1950, 1951, 52, 53, 54, 55. If you know baseball like I know you do, 55 Bowman, the television set, is the last year of Bowman. I'm setting up cards to show you. Is the last set of Bowman baseball, and it's also the last set of Bowman football. Topps is making a run at him. And in fact, in a second, I'm going to show you an example of their 1955 All-America set. It's one of the great sets of the decade, to be sure. Topps then takes over just as they do in baseball, 56, 57, 58, 59. It's Topps football, or it's nothing. All right, let's take a look at some cards, and I'll tell you about some of the things that I learned building this raw run. That ain't what I want. There we go. This raw run of 1950s 49ers cards. The first thing is I love a mail day. Albeit there weren't always banger mail days, it's still nice to open up a card, and especially if you're collecting a set. That was fun. Second thing, I learned a lot about the 49ers pre-Montana Walsh, pre-1980s. Read actually the book was quite mediocre by a guy named Dave Newhouse, a Bay Area sports writer, about those early years before the golden era, 50s, 60s, and 70s. I learned a lot about 49er history. Third thing I learned a lot about football cards in the 1950s, something I knew very, very little about. And let's stop right there. We'll talk about football cards. That first set in your bottom left-hand corner, football numbers were very different in the early days. It's not worth getting into, but they were basically the inversion of what we know today. So that is Hall of Fame running back from Compton Community College, Joe the Jet Perry. Perry's actually the first African-American NFL MVP, Hall of Famer. Great running back for the 49ers, part of the $1 million backfield along with a couple of other guys on your screen. That's Joe Perry, 1950 Bowman rookie card. 51 is okay. It's like the 50. It's a little bit like the 51 Bowman baseball, except there's a Niner logo that's not totally dissimilar if you're watching on YouTube to that crazy Prospector 49er logo on Y.A. Tittle's card. 51's okay. 52 Bowman Large is the most iconic set of mainstream football releases in the 1950s. Absolutely gorgeous. 144 cards issued by Bowman in two sizes. There's a large, which is shown here on both the Hugh McElhaney rookie card and the Y.A. Tittle. They are gorgeous. They're paintings. Photos turned into paintings, and I think they are spectacular, and so do other collectors. The Bowman Large are far, far more in demand than the Bowman Small. Bowman Small is closer in size to the 51 Bowman. Fine too, but these Bowman Large are beautiful. And you can see the battles between Bowman and Topps are being influenced by Topps going to that larger card, so they're experimenting with it as well, right? 52 Topps, it's that big, bold color, big, bold set. So 52 Bowman Large, you've got the Hugh McElhaney, guy's like a matinee idol with the clouds behind him. You'll notice that his card, he was going to be a rookie, so his card is University of Washington. He's on the record of saying that he took a pay cut going from the University of Washington to the 49ers for a couple reasons. Number one, college football was still king back in the day. Number two, he was on the take. But number one, college football was big, 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 big. Pro football players, not only did they work in the offseason, it wasn't unknown for them to work during the season as well. One more example from the beautiful 52 Bowman Large is Y.A. Tittle. Nice horizontal card. He has the 49er logo. Really, really nice. Beautiful, bright red painting to just makes me very happy. I learned about the sets. I learned about my team, the 49ers. You know what else I learned about myself as a collector? I mean, this was an experiment. I learned I'm not a set collector. I'm really not. It was an experiment, and it was fun. But at some point, it started to feel like work. And if you know me, I came to play. I work hard enough in my life. I do not come to make sports card collecting a part-time job. So I want to show you a few more cards because it's well worth it. I mentioned a moment ago, that really, really beautiful 1955 Topps All-American set, the precursor. Right, they're about to take over, get the NFL license, drive Bowman out of business. So I want to show you one of those and then a 56 card from their first year that they... There we go. And a 57. Jim Thorpe, 1955 Topps All-American. Love this. This set is 100 cards, horizontal and vertical. Some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ones, including this one. This one is probably the most recognizable. The Four Horsemen is the scarcest of the short prints. There's some other really good ones. Don Hudson. We'll talk about this set in a little while and the players on it in a sec. Middle card is Joe the Jet Perry, the aforementioned first African-American Hall of Famer. That is the 1956 Topps set, and I think it's a beauty. It has a lot of print issues, a lot of dots, bubbles kind of, and really has some bad centering, but I think I got a nice one here in Joe the Jet. Bottom right-hand corner that's an Earl Morrall rookie card. You know Morrall from Super Bowl Heroics. Started with the 49ers, ended up with the Colts. Let's go back. Let's get out of here and go back to me. So I'm not a set builder. I'm not a set collector. The whole thing just started to feel like too much work to me. I didn't like having to buy cards I didn't really want. And I also, like I was talking about before, it just became too much accumulation. Yeah. But I wanted to finish what I set out to do. And so let's turn now to the second mail day. Here it is. All good things come in small packages. For those of you listening at home, you heard the sound of scissor cutting paper through bubble. Most of the 103 cards in the raw run were purchased on eBay. Not that exciting. Some were purchased through the Facebook Vintage Football Group. Got a couple at the National last year. Got a few at another show. eBay mostly, though. Oh, here it is. Final card in the set. So the nice thing is that this is a short print. It's a player you've never heard of, and a player you've never heard of. And what did it cost? $35. So is that a lot? Is that a little? Well, considering it's a common, it feels like a lot. I'm just holding them up to the camera right now, doing it quick and dirty. Pat O'Donohue. I finished this to get across the finish line. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Pat O'Donohue coming out of the University of Wisconsin. $35. You know why? Because the way they cut the cards, they use the same cut marks as on smaller Bowman and Bowman large. So there is a bunch of these that are off center. Most of them are off center. So short prints, hard to find center cards. This one has a little like print line across the back. You can't even see it. And of course, some stains. But that is one of the liberating things about buying a raw card. Is that when you're looking for something in very good condition, you're very happy with something with some defects. All right. Be here with me now. For those listening in, I'm going to finish the set right here. There it is. Going to put it right there. All right. In its place next to Leo Nomalini and Gordy Saltow. I did it. All right. Let's take a breath, let that sink in. Took me about a year to do it. 103 cards. Spent $1,100 to build it. About $10.70 a card. Most of them were quite affordable. Hall of Fame rookies cost me a little bit. The quarterback tittle cost me some here and there, but there are plenty of $2 and $3 cards. Plenty of 10 to 20s as well. But how does it feel? Yeah, I'm really clear. I like doing little insert kind of things, my supernovas, but it's just, I don't want to spend money on dudes I don't care about, and I don't want to have that many cards, although I love my cards. So you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to sell them off. I'm going to sell them as team sets. I've had them, it's like a catch and release thing. I don't need to have these cards in my collection forever. Be very happy just to even break even for having the pleasure of doing it. I thought I would feel differently. I thought I would feel more exuberance, but I don't. But that's the fun thing about collecting, right? We learn by doing. We like this. We don't like that. So one more thing I want to share. We put the O'Donohue in there. We finished the raw run of 50s Niners. This is the other thing that I've really come to conclude for me. You do what you want to do. I believe that vintage football cards are wonderful collectibles. They are not undervalued, and they are not investments. Terrific collectibles that I could have 103 cards and spend $1,100 and get every single major release Niner in the entire decade of the 1950s. That's extraordinary. A wonderful collectible. But other than a very, 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 very select few cards, and even those cards are the rookie cards, they are not investments. So why is that? I mean, there's small population and they're great stars. Here it is. Football starts off as a college sport, and baseball is king. I'm talking the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Because the fabric of our country, the history of our nation is being told during those times. Baseball is the one that captures American consciousness then and now. Baseball at that time is the one that has the nostalgia. Why do I feel nostalgic for Willie Mays? I never saw Willie Mays. Why are people still so nostalgic for Mickey Mantle? It won't be that long till anybody who ever saw either of those players dies, right? Baseball is a part of America in a way that football during those decades never was. Now, it starts to shift. It shifts with television in the 1960s. Right? If you think about it, I wasn't born when Joe Namath calls the upset, but I totally can see him running off the field in the Orange Bowl, right? Beating the Colts. They were 19.5-point underdogs. And what do they win? Like 16-3. That's the 60s. Television's taking off. By the 70s, we've got the Steelers and the Cowboys, America's team. It's a whole different thing. By the 80s, football, 90s, 2000, right now it owns a whole day of the week. Now football is too big to fail. Remember how little hiccup with the CTE thing? It's all right. Let them play. Yeah, right. Football is too big to fail. On Sundays, it's God. But it does not translate to value on vintage cards. Let me show you a couple things before I shut my pie hole and get out of here. First thing I want to show you, who is the first great NFL quarterback of what we'll call the modern era? I'm going to say it's this guy, Otto Graham. Otto Graham only plays 10 seasons in the NFL, or especially in the AAFC, plays for 4 seasons and then 6 years in the NFL. So plays 10 seasons, cash in a paycheck. He wins 7 titles in those years, the equivalent of 7 Super Bowls, right? AAFC championships, NFL championships. He wins 7 in 10 years. He makes it 10 times. He goes 7-3. He goes to the championship every single time. This is a picture of his rookie card in a collector's PSA 5. You can have this card. The greatest quarterback, right, of his generation from the 40s through the mid 50s. You can have his card in a PSA 5 for $800. Now, $800 is not nothing, but contrast that with, we'll take your pick of a 1950s rookie guy. Doesn't have to be even comparing him to Mantle or Mays. Go down the tiers. Go down to like, I don't know, K-Line or Killebrew. Like, not that expensive, right? This guy is above, in his sport, he's head and shoulders above everybody else. Now, let's look at his second year card. That's his 1951 Bowman. Right? If his 1950 Bowman in a PSA 5 is around $800, what do you think his 51 is? Second year, greatest quarterback of his generation. Hall of Famers of Hall of Famers, 7 titles. What's his second year card worth in a PSA 5? About $150. You can get his card and for $150, not a humongous pops, mind you. They weren't printing a ton of these. It was not King. It was baseball. This is a guy who went 105-17-1 in his career. His second year card, what's it going to cost you? About $150 in a PSA 5. Because there's no consciousness. There's just no nostalgia. No one pines for Otto Graham. Tell me your greatest memory of Otto Graham. Like, says nobody. Okay? Next one. I want to show you the successor to Otto Graham and really the precursor to my greatest quarterback of all time, Joe Montana. So I showed you that Earl Morrall card yesterday or a minute ago, the 57 tops. Pretty iconic, the horizontal. It's got the action photo on one side, the action photo on one, and the portrait on the other. Listen, that'll cost you. It won't crush you. You can get a Unitas in a PSI, say 5 for like, I don't know, $7 to $850, right? Again, a transcendently great quarterback, the quarterback of his generation, always in the conversation about the goatage. PSA 5, $750, $850, right? It's got a sizable pop, but what about a second year card? This is a second year card on the board right now. You know the layout because it's the Jim Brown 58 tops. Brown is supposed to be kind of black, but it's kind of ashy or brownish. This is the Unitas right here. It got a nice little orange. Got tough to center this card because you got a border and an oval. So the border has the inner orange, and then the oval has to make a second center. This is a tough card to find centered. What's this cost you? 1958, greatest quarterback of his generation, Johnny U. Get his card, to get this card in a PSA 5, also about $150. So you can get the 2 greatest quarterbacks of the 50s and into the 60s. So if I say from, let's say, 40s, mid 40s to mid 60s, the 2 greatest quarterbacks, their second year cards in PSA 5s for a combined $300. And it ain't going to change, friends. It just is not going to change. Let me show you one last one. 1959, Jim Brown. Brown passing Alav HaShalom, probably the greatest running back of all time. Some say the greatest football player of all time. Retires in his prime, become an actor, a social activist, a civil rights leader, somebody who transcended the sport. His numbers are insane. His rushing records were in 12-game seasons. In fact, if his numbers were extrapolated in his highest rushing season, over 16 games, he would have rushed for almost 2,400 yards. This is his second year card, 1958, Jim Brown. I'll tell you what, this is a better card than his 1958. This is his 59. I love how his head breaks the plane of the top border. Oh, that's super, super cool. It looks like a Greek god. What's funny though is it's airbrushed and they fill it a blue behind him, or it's like cut, but they missed a spot. Look under his left arm, right where the football is. You said green, looks like trees or something behind him. They actually didn't cut that part out of it. Anyway, I love this Jim Brown card. I think it's a better looking card than his rookie card. You can pick up a 19, right? It would cost you about $2,000 to get his rookie. More now if you're a sucker when he dies and people are trying to take advantage of his death. If you wanted this card in 1959 in a PSA 5, about $350. Again, second year card of an immortal. Doesn't cost much. Legends are very few in cardboard, and they are even fewer when it comes to football. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think vintage football cards are worth investing in? Because I sure don't. Collect the heck out of them, but we have no consciousness. We have no memory. We have no feeling for football. And it's never going to change. We have to go back and relive time differently. We'd all have to go through those decades together to change our experience today. It's never going to happen. No one is going to be like, hey, his cards are on fire. That Otto Graham. I used to be able to get a second year card for $150. It's never going to happen. So collect for the sake of collecting. If you're going to invest, you know the ones to invest in. Really fun. Thanks for going with me on this little sidebar to celebrate my raw run of 49ers in the 1950s, completing that and coming to the realization that it's not me as a collector, and I'm going to be selling them off. All right. Be back again on Friday. Please like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Until I see you next time, may you ever be blessed with health and long life.